We're live?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
All right. Can we show that we're actually doing Zoom as well?
Cameras on that end?
Okay, and you see it there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You
so
bet.
I'm gonna bend in. Hello, live, hey, okay. And I got my special t-shirt on, electric car t-shirt. Okay, we're gonna go over to Jim first, and he's going to take us through a little bit of what's going on, introduce the various things, while other people may be checking in on Zoom. So,
Well, we're going to be talking about,
The microphone there, Jerry.
what's that?
I
Gotta be,
couldn't hear you. You must be talking facing the other way.
I was. We're turning it over to Jim right now.
we're talking electric vehicles today on a special program with EV Jerry Asher and Jessica and Mike May, proud Tesla owners. Mr. Webb, correct?
I'm a Volt owner.
And Volt owner. Very good. And we're at the Powerhouse Visitor Center in Kingman, Arizona, and you're doing this on a Zoom presentation for,
It's the start of National Drive Electric Week,
okay,
and we're having our launch meeting of the Route 66 Electric Vehicle Association, the longest geographical chapter. What do we consider the mileage from Santa Monica Pier to Loop, Chicago?
And one of the newest chapters.
Yes, and the newest, 2,000, let's say just 2,400 miles.
Yeah, 2448 is the
2448.
canonical one that people use most, I think.
No, we just have to fill in the gaps a little bit, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's a few gaps.
But anyway, this is the fun side. All right, back to Jim.
so where do we want to start this? Let's talk to some Tesla owners.
Okay.
That would be us.
Because you've got a nice blog that you do with Route
I
66
do,
and,
it hasn't gotten very many posts in it in the last few months because of everything that's happening. We've been pretty close to home most of the time. But mostly the blog is just about taking road trips, making it clear to people that might be interested in electric cars that it's just as easy to do, or at least very close to the same as a gas car. And to give information to places like small businesses on Route 66 that maybe want to get some of the electric car drivers to stop, what they need to do. Because if you don't have an electric car, if you don't have that interest in finding out about it, you're kind of in a sort of cloud of lack of information. What do I do to start with? What do I need as a business to get these people to stop? And so my blog kind of has information on that.
like PlugShare.
Right. Like PlugShare is a site that has a map of electric car charging stations, and there's quite a lot of them. And a small business on 66 can put something in and then put it on PlugShare, and then anybody that is traveling in an electric car can find out that that's a place that they can stop and plug in for a few minutes
And spend money
and spend money at the
their
shop.
store. at
Right,
their shop.
that's really the goal, is not to make any money on the electric charging part, because it doesn't really cost that much in power. But the goal is to get people to come in, stay for a half an hour, do some shopping.
Yeah. And it's a great opportunity for a business can promote themselves for
Yeah.
free.
Uh-huh,
Right.
right, because PlugShare is completely free.
Have you been to Roadkill Restaurant?
In Salina?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
Bill, the owner there, says you dine with us and you can charge for free in the RV parking lot.
Oh,
So keep that.
yeah, they have a lot of businesses together there, motel, RV park, general store, restaurant. That's a great place for an EV to stop because there's multiple things to do.
You mentioned being able to drive an electric like a regular car. One of the hardest things to adapt to is you do have to make some adjustments, for your time and things. You can't drive
Yeah.
400 miles or 500.
No, you can't, but, as,
I mean, in one shot.
right,
Yeah.
as somebody that has driven smaller cars mostly, like we had a Toyota Matrix, we never went 400 miles in that either. So the main differences are just in how you deal with the charging aspect on your trip. Like when you have a gas car, you fill it up every time, but when you have an electric car, you don't. You fill up what you need, because getting to the tippy top of the charge takes longer. So you don't use it if you don't need it. And so it's sort of a small change in how you use your car rather than a major inconvenience.
Changing the mindset.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Very
So
much.
like Tim, for example, you have like a 50 some odd mile range in your Volt, right?
We're at 40 plus.
So if you go someplace and you can just plug in and they say, hey, I'm here at the Roadkill restaurant, I'll just plug in, spend an hour and a half having a meal and come back and got 30, 40 miles in charge, and you say, oh, all right.
Right.
Tim, how long have you been driving electric?
About 5 years now. And I typically, if I'm just commuting around town, I'll go all electric. If I go on a trip, there's a mountain setting on there where it'll toggle back and forth. It's a fuel assisted electric, so it'll toggle back and forth between gas and electric, so I can extend the range, but I'm still using some gas. But it equates out to about 66 miles per gallon if you take the average.
The electric vehicle has always been practical. In fact, the best option for urban use. You know, the battery technologies, things of that nature were always a holdup until quite recently. But my pa always told me better to fill your head with useless knowledge than no knowledge at all. But there's a car at Peterson Museum, the Woods Dual Electric.
Clara Ford used to drive an electric. She didn't like gas cars. They're too noisy and smelly.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Woods Dual Electric over at the Peterson?
No, not yet.
The Woods was a car company out of Chicago. They started about 1900. They specialized in electric taxi cabs. But another two little tidbits for you to fill that head with useless knowledge. And if you make money on this in Jeopardy, don't forget me. But the first car imported into Hawaii was a Woods in electric. And then, but the Woods Dual Electric has a 4-cylinder gas engine, but it's an electric car. So when you're on the road, it's a gas car. In town, electric.
Nice.
1917. It was billed as the car that soils the air less.
I suppose that'd be true.
Now, for some of your audience, Jim, they might be experiencing gas prices a wee bit higher than here in the United States.
Especially if they're in Europe, you bet.
Yeah, in Europe, definitely.
You've been in Europe 2 times for the International Route 66 Festival, right?
Yeah.
And so...
Gary, I can't understand you at all.
Okay, I was just saying to Jim that he had 2 times over in Europe for the International Route 66 Festival.
Jerry, how long have you been, now you've been like an evangelist almost for electric vehicles for quite some time.
Well, I did have somebody call me EV Jesus one time. And yes, it goes back 25 years. It was like we had thermonuclear warfare as one of the major crises in our time, or threats, but we also had this idea of being so dependent on fossil fuel. So that started back in, early 90s that I decided my next venture would be into making a greener, cleaner America, and not only making us energy independent, but also watching out for our lungs
Yeah.
and the lungs of thousands, millions of kids. I grew up in San Diego, and one day I had a kind of an experience, this orange haze at the playground, and I couldn't quite breathe in. It was smog, but they didn't name it smog till a little bit later. This is 1955. And I still don't know how to act my age at 75, so, okay. And who did we have come in there?
Well, this is kind of neat too. Here, we're at the Powerhouse.
Electricity is about 50 cents versus a gallon of gas.
Yeah,
That's at home prices. If you're out, there's actually some free charging.
Yes. Now, we've been joined by Scott Field. Scott, you want to,
Your voice is echoing really bad when you're talking, Jerry.
Oh.
Yeah, Jerry, you're really bad. We can understand Jim, but not you. I don't know.
because I'm holding the computer and trying to switch it to everybody.
Well, why don't you use a phone? You had your phone last time. Use your phone as your camera.
Okay.
You know, of course, here at the Powerhouse Visitor Center in Kingman, we have the world's first electric vehicle museum. It's still kind of an embryonic endeavor, and as you know, you've had to move some of these things around from out at the airport, but
Yeah.
we've got some more cars through the Historic Electric Vehicle Foundation than we know what to do with right now.
Yeah, you need a lot more room for everything.
When that was introduced in 2014, my vision for this thing long-term was a rotating exhibit here at the Powerhouse Visitor Center, a permanent museum tied in with apprenticeship and educational programs through the local college. I always thought that would be just a win-win situation all the way across the board.
Yeah. It would be, I mean, I know a lot of people probably aren't considering electric cars, especially outside of big cities, but it's not gonna be very long before there's a tipping point where electric cars are gonna be the same to buy new as a gas car. And once it hits that, gas cars are gonna go away quickly. And if you've got people learning in college or in high school about how to work on the systems that electric cars have that gas cars don't, which there aren't a whole lot, but you know, if they learn more about that, they're gonna be set for decades into the future.
Right.
Whereas gas cars, it's from maybe within the next 5 years, they're going to start being a dwindling proportion of the number of cars, whereas electric cars are gonna be expanding.
It's still a few, like with the internet and all of this, we still have a few infrastructure issues to resolve.
There are, I think Tesla leads the way in that as far as
Yes.
putting in their own network. So other cars have a harder time, and that's part of why my blog talks about getting local places to install charging.
Right.
What about like lithium for batteries and things of that nature?
The chemistry of batteries is changing all the time.
Yes.
So, not being a technical person
No.
on the battery end, you know, I can't speak to the various components of them. Lithium may continue in there, or it might be one of the elements that gets taken out. Like cobalt is one of the expensive parts of a battery. And Tesla's battery day just a few days ago, where they went over the things that they're working on now and what they're going to be coming out with in the next 3 years, is a chemistry that eliminates cobalt.
Yeah. Because I know lithium is it's a real finite resource. You know, that's one of the little Achilles heels. But the battery technology has always been evolution. You know, the early electric cars, like the Detroit Electric downstairs, operated with dry cell batteries. You know, the Edison dry cells, not a very practical idea. But, you know, that was one of the holdups. The science was there, but it just hadn't caught up with the practicality, and that's what we're
Right.
starting to see now.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you can buy a Tesla Model S that has a range over 400 miles. And what they announced a few days ago, along with the battery day, was the next Model S that they're gonna be making at the end of next year is gonna have a range over 500 miles. And granted, this is their expensive one,
Yeah,
Right.
right.
but they start with the expensive and then you get down to less expensive, like the Model 3 that we have.
There
The
you
models,
go.
you know, our
Very
car,
good
you
idea.
buy the same kind of our car now, and the range is another 5% or so higher than when we bought it.
I've
And
been,
it's the same car. So every year, or even more quickly than every year, they're making little improvements that keep extending the range.
and part of this is the acceptability, changing the mindset. You know, making electric vehicles. You know, there again, it goes back to the early 1900s when we had that situation with the horse and the automobiles. You know, it took a while for people to come around and accept the idea
Yeah,
that,
and there's always gonna be applications where the older tech is clearly better.
yeah.
You know, and those are the parts that are gonna hang on until the very, very end.
There's Jerry's out in space again.
The technologies, I'm doing I do a series of community education classes here at Mulvey Community College. And I am working on, the next class is Era of Innovation. Basically the period 1880, 1930, electric vehicles and things. But I was really surprised to find that there were people experimenting with use of hydrogen in 1890 for vehicles.
Really?
So nothing really is new under the sun.
I think I have to turn that all the way down.
Oops.
I'm getting a lot of echo on here.
Yeah, turn it all the way
Yes.
down to nothing.
Because I got my thing on and it's too close. We now have, do we have Stanton available to share? I'll go mute if I can. All right, I muted me over here, but what do we need to do, Tim?
I think, turn the laptop volume down and keep your phone up.
That might work
If
better.
Yeah.
Oh.
The phone's gonna pick up everybody better,
All right,
including
good
you.
point.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if I can.
Technical difficulty.
You guys don't have to do this to make me feel better, because, you know, I'm the,
Hey, I
sound
didn't install Zoom
there.
before a couple weeks ago.
All right.
I'm
For the
still,
California Route 66 meeting. I installed it like 3 minutes before I went on.
Yeah.
I'm still the Amish farmer in the room, so.
Okay,
All right,
now I
Hopefully
can
that's
put this one back up.
yeah.
But you think about how the electric vehicle, the acceptance it's gained, and the infrastructure, everything about electric vehicles, how it's changed just in 5 years.
Oh yeah, I didn't see hardly anything 5 years ago.
Okay.
I drive for work, I went into California, every other car was Tesla.
Okay.
You know, it was,
Think
I mean, not
we're
literally,
doing better
but you
now.
know what I mean. I saw, driving up I-5, because their factory is in Fremont, California. So when they're sending cars out, they're coming down I-5. I counted 18 semis full of Teslas being shipped out, just in the couple of hours that I was driving on the roads that they drive on. You know, when they're sending cars the other direction, just truck after truck passing by full of new cars.
Well, let's talk a little bit about a Drive Electric Week.
All right, goes back about 9 years ago, I think, to 2012, with somebody saying from the Plug in America, from the Sierra Club, also the Electric Auto Association, linking together to get entities to show and demonstrate vehicles or do some event to get the public to come out and see. And so it's gone from maybe a couple dozen sites to last year, I think they had well over 300 sites just to have people come out and experience and ask questions.
Oh, never mind, no, you're good.
Okay.
Well, a lot of communities have been hosting some pretty good events. A few years ago, Bill Thomas in Atlanta, Illinois, real small little town, they managed to have close to like, I think it was 75 electrics show up.
That's a lot. That's maybe more than it was in Vegas last year. Because we go to the one in Vegas every year. We'll be there next weekend. And that one is mostly people who own electric vehicles come out. And that's what most of the Drive Electric Week events are, I think. People are sharing their own cars to just come and talk to anybody that's interested and wants to find out about them and doesn't have an avenue to do that. So people come out and they show their own cars and talk about anything that anybody wants to talk about, how they, you know, live with that instead of a gas car, how much they cost, what the differences are as far as maintaining them or taking them on a trip or anything else like that.
Well, I think long distance travel is where people have the most question.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's the part that it's most different than a gas car.
Is everybody able to hear us all right?
Yes, we can hear pretty good now.
Okay.
Excellent.
Great.
Thanks to Tim's kind direction and Coyote's encouragement to go to the cell phone.
My a friend of mine, Dries Bessels, you've met Dries, he's a guide for a tour company out of Netherlands. He just took a pretty good test drive on electric Harley that's out.
Oh, yeah?
Really?
And he had a pretty good little piece he wrote on Facebook about the electric Harley. Says he's not sure that he'd want to do that on a long trip, but he was very impressed with it.
Yeah, I mean, it can be more difficult right now, especially if you don't have a Tesla. Other cars, even, the range is a little bit shorter even on the long range ones. But more than that, they depend on private profit-making networks that are still being built.
Right.
So like, for us to go from Vegas to Phoenix is very difficult in anything other than a Tesla, because there's no fast charging in between the two. And it's a little bit too far for something like a Chevy Bolt.
Yeah.
You need one stop in between. So it's not a lot that's needed, but there's still a little bit of a hump to get over
Sure.
in some places. And in other places, it's no problem at all. Back east, cities, bigger cities, closer together, it's much less of a problem. But out here in the west, there's a lot of open spaces, and we're missing just one spot here and there to enable a whole bunch of more travel.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, and of course, we went through this before with gasoline.
Yeah, that's the same way.
As you know, I've been writing that series about that 1906 Franklin, that cross-country trip in the Franklin, and the problems they had finding gasoline and things of that nature.
Yeah,
It's an adaptive
Yeah,
situation.
it's similar, at least with electric. If you're really, really in a bind, a regular wall outlet will do. It'll take a while,
But it will do.
but it'll do. You might stay the night instead of just stopping for lunch in an extreme situation. It's one of those things where you kind of have to look ahead using a site like PlugShare. Figure out, here's where I'm gonna stop. And maybe if there's a problem with that one, here's my other place, my secondary spot that I'm gonna stop if there's a problem with the first one.
Yes. Another aspect of the electric vehicles that's becoming really intriguing is the long haul trucking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tesla was gonna have their electric semi was going to be out by now, but apparently they're still working on it. I don't know how long it's gonna be. Maybe the new batteries that they were talking about is what's gonna get that into production, but I'm not sure. They keep their stuff close to the vest. And other major manufacturers
But there again,
are working on electric stuff too.
for urban use,
21 was a semi.
Yeah, 2021.
but for urban use, the electrics there again
yeah.
become a real practicality.
Yeah, trucks they're definitely gonna be urban before they do long haul. Because you need, I mean,
No truck drivers aren't supposed to drive more than a certain number of hours. They have to figure it out, but it takes a break. Truck is charged and then it's charged.
Are you on speaker on your phone?
Yeah, it's got max.
That'd be quite a difference, a big electric truck over the old days with a 10-speed Road Ranger and a gear splitter. That'd be a real
you got no
different
shifting at
animal.
all.
Yeah.
As far as I know, the Tesla Semi uses the same motors that's in our Model 3.
Yeah.
They're not gonna need to shift anything.
It's just absolutely mind-boggling. I'm always fascinated with technology and how things change. Like I say, I'm most comfortable in the world of the Model A Ford, but they can kick me and drag me in kicking and screaming.
The locomotive has a diesel engine to make electricity, and then it runs an electric motor. Diesel doesn't have enough torque, whereas electric motor has had been in diesel locomotives for years.
Yeah, diesel electrics.
Right.
Yeah. Diesel electric trains, and because the electric motor is so powerful, that's why they had to supply the electricity to the electric motor. Really amazing how much power there is in electric motor.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating, some of the technologies and things that the science, like I say, there again, the batteries and different things were not there for it. One of the things I found in my research when I was working on this, putting this class together for the Mojave Community College, a fellow in Switzerland about 1911, 1912, about the same year that Cadillac came out with a starter, he came up with a parking meter. You put your money in it and you charge your car.
Oh,
And you question, this just kind of fell by the wayside. But you start thinking about revisiting these with the technologies that we have now.
too far ahead is what it was, it sounds like.
Yeah. Ferdinand Porsche started out with electrics. That's pretty amazing when you think about the history of the electric automobile.
Yeah, I've heard the Porsche's new electric sports car is kind of destroying their Panamera as far as sales. I mean, there's more in Europe than there is here, but I just saw a chart a couple days ago, and the Panamera is the same basic market segment as their new electric one, the Taycan, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And so they're kind of competing directly with themselves on that, and the electric one is just totally eclipsing the Panamera.
Scott Fields has to take off a little bit.
Okay.
Scott, are you still there? Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more?
Might have gone.
Oh, there he is.
Scott, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I'm here. I have to run to the kitchen for a second. Anyway, so yeah, good to meet everyone. Good to see everyone. I've tried to know you different times, but yeah, I'm the writer for the Electric Auto Association newsletter with law, and just finishing the story about Route 66 chapter, which is very cool. Totally breaking the mold, and which is what I pointed out, obviously, in the article, and I think it's going to make a big impact when the rest of the electric vehicle community finds out about it. So good luck with everything. It's really exciting, and I'm hoping to get to Route 66 in my EV sooner than later. Yeah, so I live in LA, so I'm at the start.
Yeah.
So anyway,
What we call the start of the electric route,
yep, right there.
because there's charging out there on the Santa Monica Pier, but downtown Loop Chicago into the electric route. So hopefully this will be the electric Route 66, the Green Mother Road in concept.
I think it's fantastic. I'm excited to show. I'm almost done with the story. I'll finish today or tomorrow, and I send it to you guys, Jerry and Jim, and excited to see what your reaction is to the article I've written.
Thank you, very good.
Wow.
I'm writing about it, that's for sure.
Great.
Okay.
We have to do a spotlight on Jerry.
Spotlight.
I just devote a whole article to Jerry. I realized I have to devote a whole article to Jerry.
Now there's others too. Look at Jiminy EV there, and there's Coyote, who we call Tiva Dave, Tucson Electric Vehicle Association. We do have one other person. Are you there, Stanton?
Yeah, you're on, but they couldn't seem to get audio, so I gotta read their question. I wanted to use a timeline for moving along the route or heading too far in the future. I think they're maybe referring to the route being all electric. Right now, it's pretty much, you can make it, just gotta be careful going to the right vehicle.
Yeah, I mean,
That was the question they had.
you can do 66 in a Tesla because of their network, but that's kind of like, that's their own private network. For
Yeah.
other parts of 66 than the West, it's pretty much doable now. There's there's a couple spots where it's really difficult out west because you're going through the Mojave Desert and there isn't anything. It's even hard to get through on gas. If you forget to fill up before you hit the desert, you're kind of hurting.
You familiar
Even
with
now.
Rick Carl? Remember?
Yes.
Yes,
He did Route 66 a few years ago. What kind of-
In a Mitsubishi IMEV,
Yeah, it's
which an IMEV has a range of about 62 miles from
Yeah.
full, and he did all of 66.
that was an adventure because
Oh, I'm sure. It took a long time. That's the kind of charging where you gotta stop and you plug in for hours after only 60 miles and gotta make special arrangements with people before you go.
that's very reminiscent though.
America, concerning Volkswagen ID4 that came out the other day and was sold out in one day. And I asked them, I said, hey, with your fast electric car that you have, maybe you guys want to adopt the Route 66 and add just a couple of them, and it'd be easy for any kind of electric car.
Yeah, I mean, Electrify America is the biggest installer of electric car charging stations now. They were formed by VW, kind of as a result of the Dieselgate scandal. Part of their penance was to work on electric car stuff, and they formed Electrify America, and they've been installing EV charging stations at a very fast pace all over the country. So they're probably the ones that are most likely to fill out a Route 66, you know, fill in those difficult spaces that don't necessarily have a lot of people locally that are gonna have an EV that are gonna, you know, fill their need for paying customers.
I had talked to
As I give them a lot of publicity and making part of history and providing the future.
I had talked to Electrify America about a standalone solar-powered charging station for the parking lot here at the museum. And there was some interest. We think we hit a hurdle, but we're in a pause mode. But there was definitely some interest. They gave me a case number that we can call 24/7 with questions. But you know, that's something it's a seed has been planted. And it seems like you say, Electrify America, they should be able to place those along Route 66, whether it's grid tied or whether it's a standalone solar
Yeah.
charging system. Makes sense, especially in the desert.
Yeah, I mean, with VW and other manufacturers coming out with new EVs, they're gonna depend on Electrify America to be able to tell their customers, yes, you can go anywhere you wanna go. Just like Tesla did with their own stuff, Electrify America is gonna be one of those companies for everybody else to support them.
Yeah.
You know, they're a vital link, just like a gas station is a vital link when you've got a gas car.
Guys, we got any parting thoughts before we wrap this thing up? Lots of parting thoughts?
Combs. Combs are very good for parting thoughts.
Oh, that's really bad.
Thank you.
Yes,
I gotta write that
We have
down
bad
so I
puns.
don't repeat that.
too late.
okay. Did we get any word from Stanton? Did we?
We just had the question they had there about, you know, what's the timeline for this?
Yeah, he was the one who asked
Oh,
via Jim what was the timeline for
Yeah.
66, and we don't have a hard answer for that.
Oh.
It's gonna depend on the people like Electrify America, and also,
We just had a question come up, someone was asking about, one of their primary concerns is the battery life and the cost of battery replacement.
they're pretty much past that. The early Nissan Leaf didn't have liquid cooling. Was he gonna go, or you want me to? I was gonna say those. Do you want me to stop, or?
No, keep going.
Okay, the early Nissan Leaf didn't have liquid cooling, and so they've had problems in hot climates. But since then, just pretty much every other battery electric car has had active liquid cooling, and that cuts the degradation down to like 5%, 10% over the life of the car, you know, over a normal car's life. 7, 8, 9 years.
Okay.
You know, for example, the Chevy Spark that we own in addition to the Tesla has a battery warranty of 8 years and 100,000 miles. And this is similar to what you have for a car engine.
Yeah.
You know, the powertrain warranty on a gas car. So by the time it's degraded that much, it's more or less a worn out car, just like a gas car. So asking about battery replacement, it's not a question that you can really answer now because battery tech advances so fast. You're not gonna know 8 years from now how much a battery is gonna cost. You're gonna know it's gonna cost way less than it does now. But exactly how much you don't know, and it's kind of a concern if you're concerned about how much a new engine costs when you're buying a new car. It's similar to that, and not very many people are concerned about that, for good reason. And I think batteries are at that point now. You know, you get a car with a long warranty, and you let the warranty take care of it if there's an issue before 100,000 miles. And after that, you're looking at the same sort of unknowns as getting a new engine in a car.
And that's what has been gold and standard, where they last 500,000 miles now, the new one is said to last 1 million miles, and even Chevy has a new ultra battery they're building in the US that they think will last over 1 million miles.
Okay.
Million miles.
Yeah, what happens with
Well, by then the
batteries?
car will be wore out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. What
So will the
tends-
driver.
Yeah, what tends to happen with batteries is they lose a few percentage points in the beginning, first year or two, maybe you drop 5%, and then they kind of hit a slow plateau where they're dropping just a little bit
It's like solar
over
panels.
years and years and years and years. You know, so a little bit of drop off and then slow and steady for the whole life of the car.
Exactly like solar panels.
Yeah.
Same thing
They're starting
happens.
to recycle the batteries. A new company at GV Struggle, we used to work at Tesla started, and they're working with Tesla to recycle batteries of every type of lithium. And by recycling them, they also first reuse them maybe for solar backup, and then you end up recycling them. It's still good. They only lost maybe 10% or whatever. So it's really turned out to be a great resource. And they wanted to mine all this material.
Right, right.
For batteries.
You just use the batteries in another application where they don't have to be moving a car around.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that the degradation is below what you want for a car, and there's plenty of other uses.
Well, folks, I want to thank you very much for doing this today. Jerry, you drove all the way up from Tucson,
Yeah,
and Mike and Jessica, you folks rolled in from Las Vegas.
well,
I think Tim and I had the worst commute, but
Yeah.
had to wait for the train to go by, huh?
I came out fiber optics at the speed of light, but sent home.
guys, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
get together again. I want to talk about a little bit about solar. You mentioned solar
Okay.
panels, and I want to talk more about that because that's something I got to be in my bonnet on. But we'll save that for another day.
Sure.
Okay.
But this is our first launch meeting. Jiminy EV used the term launch, and I like it. We didn't know what was gonna happen today, but our folks to my left and Jim's right have made it for us. We expected to have more members do the Zoom, but this is the first occasion, so we'll see how it works from there. But we have gone international, have we not?
Yes. Well, thank you guys very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
We'll get together again here. We don't be a
It's
stranger.
been a
to this.
pleasure.
Guys, take care. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Jimmy EV. Yes, we'll get that to send out
Say
the
hello to a
podcast
new
blog.
friend.
Thank you, Steve, for tuning in,
On
and
an
Tiva Dave and Stanton. And,
Take a two-lane trip of
we'll
memory
kind of like look
into
at this as the
mysteries
start of
unknown.
the, the electric route, 66, the Green Mother Road.
Jim
Because
Hinckley's
there's some ideas that if we
America.
get service stations, gas stations, to be truly service stations with electric, then Route 66 will stay healthy.
Right.
But if we have